Welcome to Success Story, the most useful podcast in the world. I'm your host, Scott D. Clary. The Success Story podcast is part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, as well as the HubSpot Podcast Network. The HubSpot Podcast Network has other great podcasts like Marketing Made Simple, hosted by Dr. JJ Peterson. Now, Marketing Made Simple brings you practical tips to make your marketing easy and, more importantly, make it work. If you like any of these topics, you definitely want to go check out the show. How to write and deliver a captivating speech, how to market yourself into a new job, how design can help and also hurt your revenue, creating a social media ad strategy that actually works. If these topics resonate with you, go check out Marketing Made Simple wherever you get your podcasts. Today, my guest is Jimmy Esparza. Jimmy was born in Los Angeles after his family risked everything and came over from Mexico. After working for major companies in the solar industry since 2017, Jimmy created the company Renewable Power USA. Renewable Power USA has expanded to include several service areas and warehouses ready to serve its customers in Arizona, Southern California, Ontario, Dallas, North Carolina, Orlando, and Miami. Now, Jimmy didn't just build any other renewable power company. Jimmy built Renewable Power USA to the point where it appeared in magazines such as Forbes, Wealth Insider, American Weekly, and Inc. magazine, entering the 44th position of Inc. 5,000, the 5,000 fastest growing companies in the USA. So I sat down with Jimmy. We spoke about his entrepreneurial journey. We spoke about some things to do with solar and renewable energy. We spoke about replacing traditional energy sources with solar. We spoke about how the solar industry has evolved, how he's basically been on the bleeding edge of the solar industry ever since he started Renewable Power USA. We spoke about whether or not solar can even replace 100% of existing power options. And then we spoke about business. So how did he differentiate himself? How did he grow his company so successfully and hit the Inc. 5000 list and hit pretty high up on the Inc. 5000 list? We spoke about building an award-winning sales team, some of the strategies he uses to close deals, which obviously allowed him to successfully scale his company. And then we spoke about how he used community, niching down, and customer service to succeed at sales, something that we may not always explore, but some different strategies and some tactics that he used to build a multi-million-dollar renewable energy behemoth. So let's jump right into it. This is Jimmy Esparza. He is the founder and CEO of Renewable Power USA.
So a little bit about myself, where we come from. I come from. My family is from Mexico. My mom is from Tijuana, Mexico. My dad is from Sinaloa, Mexico. And a little bit of their background. My dad comes from construction, so he's a construction worker, labor worker. My grandpa from the side of my mom, he was a business owner. He used to have a body shop in Mexico, in Tijuana. So I met him once when I was a baby, but then I can't really recall too much about him. So it was a small business. We didn't really have a background from scaling a, multi-million-dollar business or nothing like that. I would just hear stories from my mom talking about, your grandpa was so cool because he owned his own business. And then and then as we grew up, my mom crossed with legally to the United States, but my dad and my grandma, his mom, actually crossed illegally to the United States to obviously find a better opportunity compared to how it was in Mexico.
Why'd they have to do that though? Why could one cross legally and the rest couldn't?
I believe the reason that they took that initiative is because my grandma was running away from my grandpa. I guess it was a chaotic situation. Mm-hmm. She didn't want to be in that position anymore, and he walked away as well. So she needed to raise 2 kids. So it was tough where she was from. It's a small village in Mexico, so there is work opportunities, but it was just extremely hard for her to raise 2 kids. So all my respects to my grandma. Honestly, I love her, and she's such a hard worker. And So she made the decision. Somebody asked her, "Do you want to come and work out here into the United States? And you could really raise your child and provide for what they need." And she decided to go. She
Just risk it
decided,
and go and just,
risk-
yeah.
yeah. She decided to make a risk and come to the United States. And then as she started, like she literally became, she became legal. And then, my dad did as well. My dad lived in Mexico, and then when he was older and he was able to actually work, then he came to the United States after my grandma. And this was in Los Angeles, California, and that's where he met my mom. So that's my mom came across from Tijuana, Mexico, and that's where they met, and that's where I was born actually. So.
Amazing. So that's why. So that's why your dad and your grandma, that was pure risk. It was pure risk. They didn't know like what was going to happen, what was going to end up. It was just trying to make the best decision for the family at that point.
Absolutely. She was in a point where it's like I have two kids, and I'm responsible for them. So I don't see a way where I could really give them what they need, with the jobs opportunities that were there.
Yeah.
It's a smaller. Mentioned it. It was it's a town where it's in the mountains. There's just a few things that you could do there. And she really wanted the best for them. So she had to make the risk and just go for it.
And what's the opportunity once you get to LA? So what do they do now?
So she was working in a manufacturer. I believe from the conversations I have with her, she used to work with it was Lacoste, so it was like the polo
The
shirt.
shirts, yeah.
So they were actually manufactured the some of their clothing and other brands as well. So she was in the manufacturer area, and then my dad was once he was able to work, he was in making. They will make it was manufacturing as well. They will create parts for airplanes and helicopters and all that stuff in Los Angeles when he was around, like I would say like 22 years old. So and then that's where my mom and dad actually met, in Los Angeles. So
Did you now, like, learning this story, did it impact you at a young age in terms of understanding the opportunity that you had and how you wanted to carve out your career and the different things that you wanted to try out? Like when you hear the story of somebody risking their whole life to give you the best possible opportunity, what does that imprint in your mind?
100%, man. And I could remember this conversation I had with one of my family members, actually my cousin, and we were discussing how sometimes in business things are rough, right? We at the time when I had that conversation with him, we were doing door-to-door sales, right? So it's tough, right? It's not easy. And I remember having a couple drinks and we're just like, hey man, like, we deal with customers, we deal with building a team, we build with, some of the business aspects. And I don't want to say complaining, we're just discussing, some of the issues, and it was and it was tough. And I remember like going back to, to the history of our family tree. And I remember I had a conversation with him. I told him, hey man, like, to be straight up, to be straight up with you, like I think we're just whining and we're complaining, because if we go back to, to look at our family and what they actually went through to actually just for us to be from the United States, like it's insane. And for us to be sitting here down and talking about like, oh man, things are tough, things are rough.
It didn't
like,
close the sale while you're over drinks at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. So yeah, I think I go back to that story and it's like, man, like you think you have it tough? Like, no, you don't. Like you get your ass to work and, put in some work and stop complaining, and get it done. So I think that's something that does pushes me and it gives me like a reality check when I think things are, a little complicated. Then
It always centers you. Like
Yeah.
first of all, door-to-door sales by most people's standards is all like the hardest job you could possibly do. But I think it's because a lot of people were born not from hard circumstances. Because to have the privilege, it's so incredible. Like where you think about where your grandma and your dad came from
Yeah.
and what they risked, and now like the risk that you're having at your age is like, and with your business, it's not like, should I change countries to save my family? It's like, okay, should I put X, hundreds, thousands of dollars into this campaign or that? And
Yeah.
it's completely, it's a 180. And it really is. It gives me like goosebumps to think about like some of the things that other people went through, and I don't come from this background, so I can only commend because I don't have the experience, but it's incredible.
Thank you.
It's absolutely incredible. How as you went out into your career, you started with door to door solar. Why in the world would you ever take a door to door solar job? That sounds like a
Right?
horrible. It sounds like a really shitty job.
It is, man. It is. Honestly, it's not the most appealing job.
You weren't
Yeah.
born and you're like, oh, I wanna
This is my dream.
graduate high school and college or whatever and go door to door selling solar panels.
Yeah. No, absolutely not, man. That was not my dream. I thought I was gonna be like like this iconic, maybe like I was gonna be an artist and I was gonna sing. Like my brother taught me a couple things in music, and so like like most of people want to have, right, like this fame and all this stuff. But um, the main reason I actually joined door to door sales is because I didn't have too many choices. As we go further on the story from the background. I did go to college. I did go to a community college to study business, but I had to pay for my own college. I remember the story where actually my mom took me to a university because I wanted to learn business, and I was like, yeah, I want to understand a little bit more about business. They give me a grand tour of the university, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, this is the place, right? And I remember when they told my mom the price, it was 100 and something thousand dollars, and my mom just looked at me and she's like, nope. And I was like, whoa. And that to me was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? I'm not, no, like I'm trying to do something good for myself, I'm trying to educate myself so I could have a better future. And she's like, no, I mean, one, she was really straight up like, I don't feel like you're responsible enough that you're going to graduate. You barely graduated, through high school. And which I felt like it was a little offensive at the time. But then I was like, you know what? I understand my mom. And then, so it's like, wow. So I guess I don't have a choice to go to university as of right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, so I didn't have too many options, and I had to build my way up. I had to build that street credit, right? Which is
Yeah.
in business is like go into sales, understand sales as much as you can, and go through the experience and go through that corporate ladder as much as you can. And during the time this opportunity presented to me, I wanted to make more money. I was at the moment I was making 30, actually 2 grand a year. And I remember looking at a magazine for homes, and I was like, wow, man, like $250,000 homes, $500,000. And I was like, I'm making 32 grand. And I think I have a quote unquote good job, right? Like I built my way up to being a supervisor. And
Now 32 is like barely can afford to live, right? It depends on
Yeah.
where you're living in the U.S., but like my God, that I always wonder, how people survive in major.
Yeah.
I don't think they do. I mean, I don't think they do. Like I know, just a point. So in Vancouver, again, this is sort of a Canadian reference, but I know it's a big issue. So if you have a city that has incredibly high real estate prices, what's happening in Vancouver right now? And Vancouver's on par with like New York, LA, Miami in terms of inflation for real estate.
Oh, wow.
So you have city cores and you have all like entry level jobs where you'll have like servers and like people that work in retail and whatnot. They can't staff the jobs because the people that work for those jobs can't afford to live within commute distance to the actual like city core where those jobs are actually located. So now you have like an actual employment problem because nobody can afford to work those jobs. Nobody can afford to live in proximity to actually work those jobs.
Wow.
So 32 is like
Yeah.
it's virtually nothing with how
Exactly.
prices are in any major city and even in smaller cities.
Yeah.
So you're making 32, you're looking at a house for 250 to 500, which is still like now a steal.
Yeah.
If you look at what's happening. So you're like, okay, this isn't going to work. So you want to go work in sales, make good money there.
Yeah. So I heard from this door to door guy that knocked on my mom's door, and he was trying to sell her the product. And it's like, hey man, it's like at that time I was looking for a job as well, because like, man, I gotta get out of here. I used to work for a prison actually, so I was there used to be a call center inside of this prison that I used to work at, and I was literally in a prison and making 32 grand, risking my life, right? It was funny. That's a whole different story, but and I was like, hey man, I gotta look for a different way. Like I cannot survive and build a family on 32 grand, right? And this guy came to my mom's door knocking with shorts, faded hat, working for Solar City Tesla, which is now Tesla. And it's like, hey man, it's like, how about this? How about I get you a job? I was like, are you kidding me, man? Like I still go in a tie to my other job, like
Call center?
in a call center,
Yeah.
a little nice tie, and tucked in. I thought I was all cool. It's like, man, I'm not gonna go door knocking. Like it's not appealing at all, like whatsoever. And he's like, well, it pays pretty well. And I was like, okay, so what is,
What is pretty well?
Yeah, what is pretty well, right? Like, how much we're talking about? And I did the whole Wolf of Wall Street type of thing where it's like, okay, all right, man. Like, and he was hyping it up. It's like, man, this is so exciting. This company's so cool. Elon Musk is the chairman. And I was like, I didn't even know who Elon Musk was at the moment. I was like, I don't care, man. I was like, who the hell is that? I don't know. But it's like, well, you make money or not? He's like, yeah. It's like, yeah. It's like, okay, let me see a pay stub. And he showed me a pay stub, 70 grand, So
All right.
at that time, I was like, all right.
Double up.
Yeah, my boss. I think that's what he made, because I remember as an assistant, I was a assistant manager. Some of my duties were to do some paperwork, and I remember I scanned his W-2 form, and I seen 70 grand, and I was like, oh shit! So I got an opportunity to actually make, more than the director,
yeah,
right, of the place that I was working at. I was like, wow. I was like, let's do it. When did you give me an interview? So. And I was like, so at the time I was like, it was way beyond the job being, like an appealing job or something where, something where I didn't really think about, is my mom going to be proud of this, or my friends are going to like this?
You're just following the money at that point.
I was the money, man. It was like, I needed it. And I felt like it was a good product too. I think that was a big point too, because I pride myself on the things that I saw, like I was selling. So I was like, it's a good product. It's technology. I was like, it's technology space. I was like, okay, it's evolving. I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense. But I mean, the money sounds great too, So that's how I, really got into it, and that's one of the first things that drive me towards like taking that door-to-door job, because I didn't have any other option. I didn't have also I didn't have a degree.
Yeah.
I a college dropout, from business. So I was like, I don't have a degree where I'm gonna get hired right away with a good salary and plus commission and things like that. So I was like, hey, it's either this or I don't know what else is going to pay me as much. You know what I mean?
But how did you, so it's funny because at that point when you were like, it's this and I don't know what else, that's like a very traditional mindset. That's not an entrepreneurial mindset. That's where most people just figure, okay, so how do I find the best possible paying job? And that happens to like most people. I think that COVID has forced people to think outside the box because of layoffs and furloughs, and the job that they thought was safe was no longer safe. So now I think people are thinking outside the box and trying to diversify and maybe get like side hustles or more entrepreneurial.
Yep.
But you didn't start thinking like that. So as you're working this job, if you continued on that path, you'd be like, okay, how do I find another job that pays more? How do I move up the ranks? So how did you pivot that mindset from working for somebody, finding the best possible salary, to which always will have some sort of cap on it, to I want to start my own company in this space, and I know the things that I have to do, and I have to execute this, and eventually it's all worked out. And now I think it's, what were you, 44th on the Inc. 5000 1 year, right? So that, which is like, that's a huge completely different person that hit that 44th rank versus the person who took the solar panel sales job.
Absolutely.
So evolution of you in solar, what was that path?
Yeah, so at the time, obviously, I was 21 years old, and I needed some money. But after when this chip came up, right, and I was like, hey, you know what? I feel like I want to actually create my own business. I guess it came from my mom too. Like I think she engraved that into me. Like, hey, you should open up your own business. So I always had that in back of my head. I just didn't know how. Right, I never had an investor. My mom was she was an employee of the business, so she didn't really scale the business, but she did give me like the visuals, like you kind of have your own time and stuff like that. So once I got to six figures, like doing door to door, and I had some capital, and that's where
how long did that take?
It took me like 7 months, so it didn't take.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that's actually really quick. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so once I started making some good amount of income in my eyes right at that moment, I was like, oh shit! So I got some extra cash.
Yeah,
I never seen this in my bank account, so it's like now I started thinking like as an investor, right? So what am I gonna do? Like I want this to keep on I want to keep on, creating this type of income or even better income. So what should I do? And that's where I started to get into like self development, really deep. Right, started reading tons of books, and that really transformed like my mindset. One of them, the first one was The Secret. I'm sure, like
Yeah.
Law of Attraction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, that was like one of my basic one. Is like really, you could really want, you could really like set a goal and you could really actually accomplish it. And if you really believe into it and you put the right actions, it sounded pretty crazy, but at that time, but it's like I believed into it, believed in myself. I had some income, and I just started to set those goals. I was like, I'm gonna create my own business. I don't know how. I don't know how much money is gonna cost. How much money. I never really went through all those those details from a business, right? Um, which it was which I'm grateful, and I'm glad I didn't really get too much into those numbers, because if I would have evaluated all the whole thing, like I would have never done it.
It would have scared you.
It would have, yeah. It would have like I was like, dude, like what the hell are you thinking about? Just go ahead and create and make $250,000 just selling, and and that's it.
I
And
love
don't
that.
worry about that.
I no, I love the I love that sometimes like being naive actually enables success. And I actually think that's actually a really smart point. Like sometimes like a little bit of, because nothing's ever going to work out the way you want it to work out. And nothing's ever going to be 100%. I think that almost going to a little bit of like what's the word like you're just like the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed or whatever the saying. It's just like when you like look at something very optimistically versus pessimistically, and I think that that's exactly what you do. I think it's actually what you have to do to be
Yeah.
successful, because if you ever evaluated the risks required to be successful, I don't think anybody would ever build their own thing. I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, HubSpot. Now, baking a pie, taking candy from babies, both things that are theoretically easy, but anyone who's ever made a pie from scratch or attempted to pry a lollipop from a screaming toddler knows that these things are in fact very difficult. But you know what is easy? Integrating, automating, and scaling your business with HubSpot. The HubSpot CRM platform seamlessly transforms customer data into usable insights like what's the average time it takes us to respond to a customer service request, and how can we get better at it. The HubSpot Service Hub brings all your data and support channels into one place, so your team can spend less time hunting for information and more time delighting customers. Plus, seamless connectivity with marketing and sales hubs means every person on your team has a crystal clear picture of your customer. Easy as HubSpot. Learn how HubSpot can make it easier for your business to grow better at HubSpot.com. So you have to have that personality as an entrepreneur, regardless of whether or not you manufacture it or it's just because you haven't put as much thought into the thing as you need to. I think that's what it's actually led to success sometimes. But you jump into it. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, yeah, I did totally just jumped into it, and I said, you know what, I think I have what it takes. I love, dealing with people. I love to talk to people. I loved, in my previous positions, I was always in I was started in sales, and then they promoted me to be a supervisor and manager. So I've done some of the dealing with people and managing people and coaching people. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm pretty good at it. I think I've developed a few teams and helped them grow and help and transfer some of my skills to them. So I like that side of the business. So I was like, okay, that's what I have to do in the beginning. Then that's what I'm going to be doing. Just I've already been doing it for for a few companies. I think I could do it for myself. And then I mean, and I think I will, to me, it's, I believe a lot in God. So it was like, I think it was a right time, and he opened up a door for me as well at that time. I met one of at the moment right now, he's one of the biggest installation companies in the nation, as far as solar goes. So they had like a year and a half in business when I met them. So they were not as big as, they are right now. And they recruited me off of Solar City, which it was Tesla at the moment already. It was already bought off by Tesla. So, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm able to do this. There's some things I don't like. There's some people that, like, I recruited a bunch of people, family members, cousins, and
To sell?
to sell. Yeah. So there were some things that this guy had, some issues that they seen, and they're like, hey man, well, we don't get enough attention. You're the only guy that's really training us. You're the one that's like helping us close a lot of deals and identify some issues. And I seen how I could actually improve them. And by me having the chance to create my own business, excited me to like help, my family members, because
Yeah.
I got them off their jobs. I
Yeah.
brought some of my family members from San Diego, from other places, to work in Arizona. So I felt like a responsibility greater than than me wanting to be in business just because I wanted to be in business. You know what I mean? It was more of
You
like,
forced yourself to have responsibility for other people.
yeah, exactly.
That's super stressful.
Yeah, it is. It is. And at the time I was thinking, man, like this guy, he moved down from LA, he moved down from San Diego. This guy came from this call center that he was working on, and he stopped working there. So now it's like, shit, they're all looking,
Yeah.
they're asking me questions, and they worry about their future, So I was like, shit. So I got to do something, and I have to create something, better than what's going on here, because seems like things are not going to be the same. And in a month or 2 months, that's when Tesla acquired Solar City.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of changes going on at the time too. So everybody was like, "Hey, man!" Like, they were looking up to me and saying, like, "What are we gonna do?" And I did some research in the market. I put myself in front of the right people, and that's how a little bit about how it started. So.
Okay, so when you start this business, so I'm unpacking like the first steps you do to sort of make yourself successful. Is it because you obviously don't have you're not manufacturing solar panels. You didn't get like a $10 million investment and then go and start manufacturing. So you're reselling product.
Yep.
So what's involved in this business now? It's building brand. You have to build a brand. You have to have boots on the ground, like knocking on doors.
Yep.
How do you differentiate yourself so that your sales reps and your brand is going to close deals that like Tesla could not close?
Yeah. So there were some investments initially, right, but not crazy, like not 7 figures. 7 figures investments. There was quite a few. I mean, the first year I would say was a good 6-figure investment where we could really push the brand. We could hire people as well on salary basis and things like that. Where, to be honest with you, I was doing this without knowing I was doing it. So I had this saved up. So I made my own LLC, and I actually, I sat down with, West Fargo. They taught me how to actually even create some of the things I wasn't even aware of. And, I just went as there was a problem that arose. I was like, okay, I'm going to fix it. And I'm going to just little by little by little. So one of the big things that actually set us aside differently is that I was, we were there right there with the customer. So we give them the face-to-face interaction, right? Connection. And then we really build on the community. So that was huge, right? Like, people want to have some local, right? And some of the analysis that I did with the customers, and, I think in overall, I see it in many places that we build teams and we build our brand and we sell, is people like local, but they don't want you, they don't like for you to be small, right? Like, they're like, you're local, but if you're too small, then it's a little risky for me to go with you, right?
Course,
I mean, it's fun. Like, I like the local vibe, but you're just a little too small.
What does local mean? What does local mean?
Local mean is like where the person that's really running that division or that team, it's from there and knows some people, lives there, right? And most of his team is from there, right? Or at least they interact with the community. They go to, like, for example, there's a lot of chamber events,
of commerce and business,
or where there's little events, like, you see them all the time. They're there, they're involved. Charity events, little things like that, where it's like they're really involved, right? So one of the things that I've noticed, and that definitely set us aside, is like, we are local, which it kind of checks that check mark from our customers. We're involved in the community, so you'll see us around. And then also, we're a pretty big company as well, right? Not a massive corporation, but we are, like, for example, just like you said, like, we're in 5,000 companies, we're from the Southwest, we were from number 44. So we're getting to be, more.
Dude, that's pretty big. That's right. Like, and that's like pretty massive growth too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so people like
impressive.
that.
Yeah.
I feel like we really work hard on that. And they like that, once you sit down and then the guys present and the guys offer the products, like, yeah, man, like, we're going to treat you like somebody who's local, and we're also going to give you that big brand service, right? That great customer service, and also that great experience as far as product. Like, we have We also have a partnership with Tesla, which we could offer their products. We had Tesla, give us some, some training as far as their products.
You can resell theirs as well. So
Yeah.
it's like the person who's delivering the product. So you're like, are you pure reseller or yeah, because
Yeah.
you're not producing, you're not manufacturing yourself. So it's like the sales, the support, the actual installers. Those are the pieces that you control.
Absolutely. So we do the resale, we do the agreements, we do the whole operations. We have the relationships with major installation companies and also with finance companies. So that's some of the things that we handle on the back end, on the operational side of it. And yeah, so that's pretty much what we do.
And then the sales strategy was like, so it was like geo targeted regional sales strategy, but like emphasis on customer support, and that's
Yes.
And then okay, so then when you first started, you obviously like the manufacturing's not in the business, but the other pieces are. So did you take on like how did you find the installers? How did you find the right support to actually service the customers? How did you give them like that premium experience? Did you hedge that risk yourself and hire on salary, or did you find like other agencies that could fill that or independent third party contractors? I find it just really interesting how you build like such a labor intensive business and deliver that excellence in like a relatively new industry.
Yeah.
Because I can't imagine it's not like it's not like people like if you're hiring like a roofing contractor, roofs have been around for a long time. So there's probably a lot. I'm just thinking roofs because of solar, but I mean the solar engineers or installers, there's probably very few to pick from, and you're probably trying to pick from other companies that already have them.
Yeah. So some of the things that we did is, I think the biggest thing that has helped us as a company is that when I started, I build my name as much as I can, like where I was selling tons of this equipment, right? Equipments for Solar City, for Tesla, and for the other installers. So I just build it. I build tons of installs for installations with them. So now it's at a point where people is like, hey, we want to work with you, man. What can I do so you could distribute your product? What can I do so you could
I got you. Okay.
and we'll give you this price. We will provide you with this. We'll give you. So there's a lot of perks nowadays that which we're thankful to that we're able to receive from others.
The brand first, so you built the brand first.
Yeah, exactly. We build it, and then I think the numbers talk by themselves, right? Like selling over 8 figures as far as solar. It goes a big long way, and people want to be part of that, or they want me to help out and support on that side of the business. So I think that's one of the biggest things that has definitely helped us out a lot.
And then the industry as a whole, like talk. I'm just curious about solar. I'm curious about renewable. So where is the industry now? I've seen solar panels on homes for forever. It seems like forever for like a considerable amount of time.
Yeah.
But it's not obviously mainstream. I mean,
Not yet.
it's mainstream when I feel like someone's grandma has solar panels on their house, or your own grandma has it on her house.
Yeah.
Right? So where's the industry now? What's the benefit of putting solar panels on homes? Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? How much has it evolved? What's the market size? Like how all these different things that people are interested in solar, interested in renewable, want to know.
Yeah, I think I don't think I know that the market it's really on tap as of right now, right? I've been doing it for 7 years already, and start off when nobody really knew what you were talking about. They're like, you're crazy. Like, there's another way of generating electricity. It's probably a scam. Like, people were really like skeptical about it. So at this point, like, people have a better understanding, right? And they're now looking for the right company to actually install solar panels on the roof. So I believe that we're like at 5% of what this really is going to be, right? Because also our government is pushing it pretty hard, right? There's federal tax credits, there's state credits, there's rebates in some states. So they really want everybody to go solar, right? Not only because the customer is going to save tons of money, but also because it's a noble cause where it's going to be helping out and impacting the environment, right? Because I'm sure if some of you guys heard about the Cleaner Act, where all the world got together and they said how they talked about how they're going to put their part as far as global warming through renewable resources and things like that. So that was a big thing for us too, and that's how they're trying to push it. Where it's like, hey, Mr. Customer, if you go solar, you get all these cool incentives. Like, you're going to be saving money. You're inflation free, right? As far as your power goes. And as far as that's the customer side of it. As far as the industry, there's so much more to it that, like for example, for Renewable Power US, like we are constantly training and onboarding people, to be part of what we're doing as well, with the same structure, with the same
Is it
model.
easier to find talent now because you find the industry is evolving?
But yes. You know what? We actually have a lot of people coming in from the roof space, realtors. Like, people are catching a lot of interest as far as solar and being involved with what we're doing. And the reason why is because I feel, and anybody that's been in sales, it's an easy product to sell. Like, right? All you got to do is just capture the customer's interest and just sit in front of the customer. And if you're good at sales, it should be at 80% closing ratio,
Wow.
which is pretty good.
It's not normal.
Yeah.
No, it's like a standard for like you can benchmark like 20% in most industries.
Yeah.
So 80% is insane.
Exactly. So, I feel like, and me coming from sales too, like from a background of sales, once I experienced this product, my first month coming in, I was like, I was already one of the top producers, just like, oh, bam. I mean, it's like, okay, it's not that complicated. I remember pushing cell phones. I sold, quite a few things, and to me, this one was pretty much a no-brainer. So I see how it's really appealing to good closers out there to wanting to be part
To move into the industry.
move
And walk me through like the financials. So the premise is you're putting solar panels on people's roofs, and that would completely replace the power that they would use from the city, or no?
We try to do, we try to provide it with it's called an offset, right? So let's say the customer uses 10,000 kilowatts, right? Like, if we compare it with the car, like say there's 6 gallons of gas, right? So we provide a 20% more of what they need. That way, they don't have to use the utility anymore, and they're a little bit more self-independent. The only reason a customer will rely on their utility will be if they're using more power than what the system actually produces. So they tapped into,
The city grid again.
the grid again. So, but for the most part, it's not too common, when they do tap, unless maybe the customer just went overboard as far as their production, and
Okay.
it does happen, but it's not too common.
And do you mind going to like the unit economics on like if you put? I'm curious, like what does it cost to put on your house, and versus what does that actually make the customer?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, there's tons of ways where the customer could benefit from, especially on the financial side. We go in and just give them analyze like how much they've been paying. For example, we go in a customer's house and he's been there for like 10 years already. So he'll probably already spend like almost 18 grand, on electricity, right? If not, maybe 5% less or maybe 5% more, so depending on the customer, but that's usually the case. So, we go in, it's like, just think about it. You're gonna probably go 5 years more or 10 years more in this home, and you're gonna end up paying overall like $38,000 to $40,000 of electricity, if not more, right? Depending on inflation. Inflation has been insane through the past couple years. So, what we do, we go in and start saving you now, right? Like, and the most part, like it gives them like a 30% savings, like on a month-to-month basis. And then it gives them a tax credit, 26% tax credit. So also it averages anywhere from $7,000 per customer. So when you file your taxes,
26% tax credit on what? On
on whatever the system cost.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's say, within the average, I'll say 7,000, depending on the state. But it's a $7,000 tax credit average, right, per customer. So they're already in the economic side, like they're saving right off the bat, right? And then they're also, once they file the taxes, they get that credit, which helps them get that money, receive the money or get a credit, right? It all depends how they file taxes. But those are some of the immediate economic savings that the customer get. And then also it gives them that peace of mind because you're also going to be able to actually be on a fixed rate, for depending on the loan amount, right? Or whatever the contract is. Like, this is not this production that we're giving you, this power that you're receiving from the sun, it's not going to go up on you like it is with other utilities, right?
Yeah, so you lock in a rate and that's usually like somebody could pay cash to put
Yeah.
solar, but normally someone's going to finance it. You have a fixed rate, you install it, and then they'll pay that off over a period of time, and then that almost makes it a little bit easier because now you have a fixed rate, so that could subsidize and basically replace the monthly electricity or utility
Exactly.
bill. Okay, understood. Okay.
Yeah, most of the time it replaces the utility bill. Like I would say, like 90% of the time. Like it's like, yeah, the whole point is like we'll eliminate that. Now you have your own production and you have them just in case of an emergency, or let's say you use more power, you have a family members in home, or you threw a crazy party, I don't know, right? And you would just use that small percentage, from the utility. So which is still ends up saving.
What's the average like break even for a customer?
The average break even, what do you mean, like on a?
Oh no, like so say I'm like subsidizing my utilities, and then I'm instead I'm doing as opposed to paying utilities, I'm financing like solar.
Okay.
So when do I start to recoup the cost? So when is the solar paid off? Like say like 5 years or something like that?
Or the ROI?
Yeah.
ROI is an average from 6 to 7 years. So
okay.
That's let's say if the customer will pay the same amount as they're paying for their utilities right now for 7 years, they'll have a system paid off.
That's smart. And then after that, then it's pure savings.
Yeah. After that, it's pure savings, and they have that. It adds some value to the home too. Easier to sell. Whenever it comes to like maybe they want to move out. There's some value already in the home, and then people that want to buy a house, if you show them a house that doesn't have solar and a house that has solar, it's a lot more appealing because you already know you're gonna walk into maybe no bill or maybe a really small bill compared to walking into one of the second highest bill that the average homeowner has, which is electricity, right? Especially in these hot places like, we're here in Miami, Arizona, it's and then if we move to like the East Coast, their high bills are usually on the winter. So, you won't have those, winters or summer bills, right? Because those are the high ones. Like whenever, depending on where you're at or what state, it's either you have high summer bills or you have high winter bills. So, they'll know like, oh yeah, I don't have to go through that $300 summer bill or $300 winter or $400, depending right on the customer. But gives them peace of mind too. And it's like, I'll be able to. I would prefer to do this than do this home where it's like probably gonna get hit by this big bill.
No, the financials make sense on it. The industry's evolving. So like if I look at I don't know anything about solar. So I was like, okay, what are pros and cons of solar? And like obviously like pros are pretty straightforward. I think they're pretty well known. Like you reduce dependence on fossil fuels. It's like a very green and pollution free option. Obviously return on investment. The only things that I could find, and I'm curious about your opinion on some of the cons of solar, and I want to get your perspective because you're in this industry. So the number one con, and also something that I think is trying to be solved for, is storage. And I think storage is because if you don't have like sun, then you don't have power. Is that yes, no, correct, incorrect?
I mean, if we don't have sun, I think we have a bigger issue.
I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, Manscaped. Now, us men know that we need to trim, we need to manscape so we don't have an overgrown mess. But I doubt you're doing it properly if you haven't tried the best products from our sponsor today, Manscaped. Taking control of your grooming is incredibly important. These products are so good, it's going to do wonders for your health, your hygiene, and your confidence. Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. The package I recommend is the Performance Package 4.0. Inside the package is the Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer is a hair's worst nightmare. The trimmer is designed to reduce grooming accidents and shave hair on loose skin thanks to a ceramic blade and advanced skin-safe technology. In the Performance Package, you also have the second best tool, the Weed Whacker. This fine-tuned nose and ear hair trimmer will make sure that your nasty nose hairs are completely under control. Outside of those two tools, you also have the Crop Preserver, which is a deodorant, and the Crop Reviver, which is a spray-on toner. Remember, get 20% off and free shipping with the Success Story Podcast code, our code 20success at manscaped.com. Remember, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use our code 20success. It's time to level up your grooming game with the ultimate hair and grooming tools from Manscaped. No. I mean, like, so what I mean is like, not for like the rest of the world, not for like a year. I mean, like for like, say you have like 3 rainy days,
Yeah.
Like, does that ever impact like the ability for people to use solar? Because I think that the only problem I could really find was storage, because the
Yeah.
storage is very expensive. So
Yeah.
to actually, if you have sun coming down and it's collecting the actual batteries, so the batteries have not evolved yet where they're like actually very very cost effective for the average consumer. Like, I guess it's the same batteries that Tesla would be using in their cars that would be storing energy
Yeah.
from solar. So that's the, and I think the Tesla cars, I think the battery to replace it is like $8,000 to $10,000, something like crazy like that.
Yeah.
So if you have like a super expensive storage option, then you can't really store, or can you store? I don't know the like the how they're engineered. And
Yeah.
that's the only thing I could think of. If you have like a period of like no sun and you're relying on solar and you don't have a battery because it's super expensive, could that be a negative?
Um, could it be a negative? Yeah, depending on the customer, right? Like we have all type of customers, which is, like if they're more on the, upper middle class like customer, then, they'll find it, which is, it wouldn't be a worry for them. But usually our typical average customer, like we do a recommendation where if they ask us those questions, like, I mean, yeah, you could go ahead and have it just for a peace of mind, right? If it's
Yeah.
something you want to add, it's definitely it's not a necessity just yet, right? It's not something that you need to have if you have solar. It's more of having a peace of mind, right? Just in case of an outage, like you'll have power, right? You have some juice in there.
If it's cloudy, do
Uh
you
huh.
get still sun power?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's not the same as is the full sun is actually out, but it still penetrates the clouds, and
I figured, yeah.
there's still some production. And by the most part, depending on the area and the design systems that we have, like we take these things in consideration, right? So to make sure that the customer actually gets a production that they have, like we have the production guarantee from from our equipment. So we guarantee that they're going to produce this amount of power and electricity. So and by and wherever we're at, we do an evaluation of pretty much weather wise and things like that, so the customer could get what he needs. But I mean, if they add storage, I mean it's a safety net for them too.
Yeah.
Maybe we didn't evaluate like I don't know something crazy that happened at that city or state. And then if you have a battery, then you'll have the peace of mind that you have enough juice in there. So I mean, as far as pricing goes too, I mean, they have dropped a little bit. There's different options now. Before there was just the LG batteries, and there was Tesla, which is one of the big ones that we have. But now there's also Solar Edge came in with some new batteries, a little more affordable.
So this is
Um,
like a never moving industry, obviously.
yeah,
And that's the only, and I don't mean to say that like a battery is like the end of the world. It just, so as an industry evolves, you're going to notice it all. Like, I'm sure a battery in like 5 years is going to be $500 or something like very very inexpensive, right? And
yeah,
it's going to be the same battery or probably a more advanced battery. Same with like cell phones and any other piece of technology that we're creating. I was
mhm,
just curious as to if that was something that was like a major issue with the industry right now, because you can't really see a lot of other issues
yeah.
outside. If you have proper storage, then it would be pretty hard to argue against this being like a like the best possible replacement for fossil fuels.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's not a big issue. It just depends on the customer budget, right? Like it depends if that's something that they want to add. We could do it. Have they reached maybe the best pricing potential? I believe there's room for opportunity, but it's gonna take some time. But we don't, as far as the areas that we work on, like it's not a necessity for the clients. It's more of a,
It
you
doesn't
know,
come up a lot.
no, it doesn't. It's more of a peace of mind for the client that we're doing a battery and adding a battery for them. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, I think we really don't have those big issues.
So what are the problems as a CEO of a solar company? What are the problems that keep you up at night? Like industry problems first, and then I want to talk about business problems that you're trying to solve for.
Industry problems. I guess one of the big one was pricing. There was a price increase. As far as with all this logistic crazy things that are going
Yeah, just
on,
supply chain stuff.
supply chains, right? Things that are going on, manufacturers. So I think one of those things is just analyzing how we're gonna be able to adapt. How are we gonna be able to provide it with the customers' pricing. How are we going to be able to, to do our profits and losses and things like that, right? How are we going to be able to adapt during these changes? Um, and as far as the industry, there is incentive, so we got to prepare ourselves for the times where maybe there's no incentives, right? And it's going to be so common and so popular that everybody's going solar, right? So we got to be able to prepare for that. Um, and and that's pretty much it, man. Other than that, I think the industry it's moving, it's growing fast, which is good for us as well. Um,
Are people lobbying governments right now for more incentives? Are there big groups that lobby on behalf of solar?
are the big groups? So what was that? I'm sorry.
Like, are they lobbying on behalf of solar companies to get more incentives for consumers? Is that something that's happening?
I believe so. Yeah, I'm not too involved in that area, but it is something that's going on, right? They wanna open up different areas or different opportunities where there could be more incentives.
Yeah,
And it also it's by a state,
it's at a
state and
state level.
utility. Yeah, yeah. So it'll be more on a state level and a federal level. So, but yeah, those are some of the things that as a business owner in solar, we got to look out for.
Yeah,
And yeah, that's pretty much
and then who's
some
like
of the things.
is I know like obviously Tesla is probably one of the main innovators in the space, but who else is like focused on evolving and I guess creating more efficient, if that's a right term, solar panels? Like who else is innovating on this right now?
Um, well, Tesla's a big one. There's also big manufacturers. SolarEdge is one of they have inverters. They also have batteries, optimizers, all type of technology. So I think they're one of the leading guys as far as manufacturer goes. And they're also a publicly traded company. As far as the manufacturing space. But other than that, I don't see any. I mean, there is also, Silfab is American made. They manufacture panels. There's some good panels. Q cells, German. They're typically Germany. They're designed in Germany and manufactured out here too. So, um, I think those are one of the big players. I think SolarEdge is one of the
Solar Edge
big players.
and
Yeah,
then Tesla.
and then Tesla. Yep. And yeah, and then on the I guess on the division from the install side and from the sell side of it, there's big players. Sunrun, it's a pretty big. They've been in the game for quite a while. The same as Solar City, which is Tesla now, which
Yeah, yeah.
it's combined. It's combined now, so I think they're those one of the big players. But I believe Tesla is not really too interested in their solar division. They're more on their
They don't
vehicles.
advance. They don't create new stuff, or not as frequently as they used to, or
Not as much as they used to. When I used to be there, there was a lot more involvement. There was a lot more, things going on as far as that division went. But as far as what I've been seeing from them, seems like they stopped some of the things that they wanted to do. Seems like the manufacturer of it, side of it, didn't come as well as they thought they were going to be. So they paused some of the products and things like that. So I do see, new companies innovating or companies trying to like find, the best way to service, the best way to manufacture, the best way for aesthetics of panels to improve that and things like that. Um, but yeah, those are one of the big players.
okay, no, okay. Let's go back to you and building business and some of the things that you've learned building this company out. And I also actually I want to ask you some of the problems that you've solved for, like biggest things keeping you up at night as a CEO. But I always like to understand the mind of a content creator because you also are a content creator, and I feel like it's funny. Like I'm a big fan of the celebrity CEO putting themselves out there, personal branding. Obviously, I mean this is how I grew the show and how I
Yeah.
grew my own personal brand, but not a lot of people subscribe to that idea. A lot of people feel like, oh, the industry isn't sexy enough or the industry isn't cutting edge enough. To me, you're a perfect example of how
Thanks.
it doesn't matter like what you're doing. It doesn't matter what business you're building. It only makes it easier when you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
I mean, how many? So I guess the other solar CEO would be Elon Musk, but
Yeah.
outside of that, not a lot of them do, and not a lot of CEOs do. So why
Yeah.
did you choose to do that? You mentioned earlier you had a lot of success building a brand, and that's what allowed you to gain trust with your customers, and that sort of allowed you to grow the business.
Yep.
Um, why did you, in particular, feel like personal branding, putting yourself out there? You do interviews. You have a great Instagram. Uh, you don't have to have a great Instagram to grow a solar business, but you did it. Why?
Yeah. I believe one of the biggest things that set us aside from these big players, right, Elon Musk and other big CEOs is, they have a lot of investors too, so they play a big role, as far as decisions and things like that. So when it comes where we're privately owned, we get to really dictate, what goes on as far as marketing and as far as branding and things like that, and that's what people want, right? That's what the people want to know you. People want to know who's behind the brand. People want to know what are some good things that you're doing. What are some things that are innovating. People, there's the nowadays, like the TV is social media, right?
Yeah.
Like it's that's what it is now. So if people want to see us there, then that's what I'm gonna do.
Did you have
And
trouble doing that at the beginning?
um, yeah, not necessarily. I mean, there was
No, I ask because it's tough to put yourself out. Like I'm like a huge student of Gary Vee. Like
yeah.
he puts everything out there, and I preach this all the time, and I always say like just put stuff out there, and it's
Yeah.
gonna suck at first, and then iterate and improve, and eventually it'll turn into great content. But you're not gonna get the great content unless you just put out shit for 100 posts. And a lot of people have a hard time doing that. A lot of people don't want to put out posts because
Yeah.
it's not great, it's not perfect. You said the wrong thing, the edit wasn't great, the lighting wasn't great, you looked off, whatever. But
Yeah.
you're not going to get that perfect post by never posting. But
Yeah.
so how was it like day one posting stuff, and what was your strategy? How did you get the confidence to put yourself out there, or was it just natural?
Um, I think it was not necessarily natural, but I think not just in business, but I've posted it in the past before, so I kind of mess around a little with the social media, and not necessarily in the business aspect. When I was single, I have to put myself out there so people can, it's before I met my wife could meet me and things like that. So I did that, and I think I kind of added a little bit on the model. It's like now I gotta expose now. I'm no longer single, right? I'm married. So I just adapted that model and did it into my business so it look appealing. It could look,
Yeah.
right? So we could tell people what we're doing, so people can get to know me, right? Because now we're not just doing business in one state, right? We're doing business in multiple states. So if I want to reach a bigger crowd,
Yeah.
then I have to. I feel like it's something that I have to do. And yes, it is within me. It's something that I think I enjoy doing as well. It's not easy. Some of the times there is that self doubt. It's like, what are they gonna say? Did I say the right thing? Is there's tons of things that go behind all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just like you said, just throw it out there. People are gonna say, like maybe he's not perfect, he's not that, but who's perfect, right? Like,
No one.
no,
Yeah.
absolutely no one. So, but yeah, I think that was the model too at the beginning. As just put it up there. My customers want to see it. People that work with us or employees or contractors.
The employees, like they're comfortable like being part of like an org that like put stuff out. Because I saw like you build in public, like at events that you throw, you're posting that, like all that stuff you're posting, you're putting it all out there, and like the team is like cool with that. They like it. They get behind it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even actually the leaders in the company, they adapt the same model too. They and I seen even other competitors too, like apply that.
Now
Because
they're
now
learning.
they're doing that.
Yeah, like you're making money. Then they're like, oh shit, like maybe I should do
That's what
that.
I gotta do, right? I even have like, some of the competitors like being on the, watching everything that we're doing, and even to with the other leaders as well, and they adapt to it, yeah, or employees and our contractors adapt to it, and they're like, oh man, I like that, like I want to show it, I'm proud of what I'm doing too, because that's another big thing too that I tell them too, like, yeah, man, you gotta be proud of what you're doing, like
Mhm.
even though maybe being in sales or presenting to the world what you're doing, it might not be the best thing you would want to do. You much rather want to put a photo of your family, which I understand, of course, that's primarily the thing, right? But if people don't know what you're doing, how do you expect to get more clients? How do you expect to get more business, right? How do you and this is a thing that people want, so it's like, here it is.
Yeah.
This is who I am, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Okay, I want to go into a couple like rapid fire and to pull out some last career insights. But before I pivot, and I'll ask some of the challenges you've like overcome and some of the things that you're worrying about now. Um, but anything else that like where do you want to go in the future? Like where do you want your company to go? Where do you personally want to go? What's the next 5, 10 years look like for you?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing to me is like every time I'm a really competitive guy, right? I want to be the best at whatever I do, right? Which it kind of drives me crazy sometimes, but
Good.
I
It's
enjoy it.
good.
I like to, perform at the best level that I can. So obviously, be the best at what I do, man. That's primarily the thing. Keep on growing my business. Keep on providing opportunity to people. One of the biggest things now is like I want to help other people the same way that I was helped when joined the solar industry. Like you said, like there's a lot of people out there that, there's no other option, right? Like you need the money, but you want to make money in a place that you feel good about what you're doing, right? So, I just want to continue to help, many people that want to create more income and they want to do it the right way, right? So, for example, if I go back to where I was at that time when I started, like to me, and to be really honest with you, it was either, I only knew people that were making money that, I didn't know all the CEOs or all these big players, investors, and all this stuff, right? Like I only knew people that were doing bad stuff, making money, like on the
Hmm.
streets and all this stuff, right? Not cutting corners in business and, not paying taxes, not reporting, getting cash and all these little hustles, right? And that's the only people that I knew at the time. But once I got presented this opportunity and I got to meet like other people, it's like, oh man, that's not the way to do it. The way to sustain it and actually to grow is to do it the right way, right? And so I want to keep on doing that for thousands of people if God allows me to do it. I want to be, I want to keep on growing myself. I want my peers to keep on growing as well. My coworkers, my employees, for them to grow, for them to feel proud of what they're part of, and then make it one of the number one company in the nation. Like literally, be at least in the top five in the nation. We have already been through some of our distributors. Like we already been in the top one, top two.
If you're hitting the Inc. 5000 list, then you're already up there.
Yeah, yeah. So we're definitely getting there. Um, but I also have this big ambition where I want to structure my business where like why not if we could publicly trade it maybe in the future, down the line and just make this massive solar company like let's do it. I think I'm up for that challenge. And also, I want to be, I'll be tidying in other business that are relevant, that actually
Yeah.
are match what I'm doing. That kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Like on the solar space, and experiment that side of it, and just keep on learning more, man. I think that's an overall vision, and for my people to grow, because that's big. I want them to grow. I want them to experience, the higher level of work ethic, of income, of just some of the good things that solar has done to me. I just want to share with tons of people and add more value to them and their families as well. So
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good, man. I just want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, swag.com. Now, if you've ever received a corporate gift or swag in the past, how many of those gifts did you actually keep? Probably not many, which is probably because the stuff that you got was not so great. I've gotten like a lot of stuff from trade shows and from companies in the past that I've just thrown out the second I get it. So this is why you need to check out swag.com. I've been on the receiving end of getting garbage gifts. I've also worked in companies where I only had access to a really, really small inventory of stuff that I wanted to give my customers and my employees, and I knew that it wasn't going to resonate. I knew that it was going to suck. So what is swag.com? Well, it's like swag upgraded. It's the best place to buy custom gifts and swag that people will actually want to keep. So they sent me a box because obviously they're sponsoring the show and I wanted to see what it's all about. I've worked in businesses. I want to make sure that the quality of their stuff actually was up to my standards, because I can tell you right now that when I get garbage, it goes right into the trash. It really goes right into the trash the second I get back from the trade show or the conference or whatever. So I received one of the custom swag boxes from swag.com. I loved the unique packaging, so it was a beautiful unboxing experience. I love the actual products they sent me, and there's a whole bunch more that obviously they didn't send me, but the stuff that they did send was absolutely beautiful. It was very high quality, and I can only imagine that if I actually got this when I was working for companies, I probably would have actually used it. And to be honest, I'm going to start using them for people that work on my show and in my company as well, because I know that this isn't just a novelty gift that somebody's going to throw out. It's stuff that they can actually use. They have so many unique and customizable gifts that I've never seen anywhere else. They have custom yoga mats. They have custom Apple AirPods. They even have branded kayaks, which I did not know was a thing. So they carry all these premium brands like North Face, Yeti, Nike, and more. And it's all customizable with your company's logo or artwork. So you're even able to create custom swag boxes full of great branded items. And then you actually deliver them in a custom, unique box. With swag.com, they take care of all of your swag at their warehouse and they ship it to individual addresses. Or if you prefer, you can just send it to a bulk location in one single shipment. It's easy to manage from their online portal, which you obviously get access to. So if this is something that you think would benefit you, if you have clients or customers or a team and you want to go the extra mile and you actually want to give gifts that people appreciate, which is the whole point of giving these gifts in the first place, go to swag.com for the perfect swag and custom gifts. Right now, they're giving everybody who's a Success Story podcast listener a special offer. It's 10% off your entire order, but only when you go to swag.com/success and enter promo code success10. Remember, for 10% off, go to swag.com/success and use promo code success10. Where do people reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, people could they could go to Instagram and they could follow me, Jimmy Esparza official. They could also go to Facebook, Jimmy Esparza, and they could also go to our websites, renewablepoweringusa.com. Pretty simple, right? Renewable Power US.
That's good.
USA. And that's where they connect with. They can connect with me directly, DM, or they could also visit our website and request some info if they need anything from us. But
Awesome.
yeah,
Good. Okay, we'll put that in the show notes too. So,
thank you.
okay, so there's a couple rapid fire, but I think you're a CEO in an evolving space. So, is if I was going to say 5 things that are keeping you up, is that too many? I'm sure there's actually probably more than that, to be honest. But on the spot, without prep, can you think of 5 things that are keeping you up at night that are like right now stressing you out? It doesn't have to be solar related. It could be HR related. It could be investor related. It could be sales related. It could be revenue related. But why are those 5 things keeping you up?
Yeah, one of the things I will say investors. Like I've been reach out for a couple investors. I've been reach out to different partnerships and to grow, right. And one of the things is like, man, what is the next? Like I know exactly what I have, where I'm heading towards, it gives me comfort, right? Number wise, revenue wise, growth wise, like strategies wise. Like I know what I have to do, right? As far as that goes, and I just keep on, I just got to push forward, and I try to keep I think the biggest challenge is just keeping myself focused, right? And not getting distracted by all these other opportunities that are presenting, that are getting in front of me. Because yes, I do want to grow fast. Yes, I do want to take it to the next level, but I also want to do it the right way, right? So I'm just careful about the decisions that I make, and I want to make sure that there's nothing bad gets in the way of those things that I'm working towards, right? So that's one of the things. The other thing is like, yeah, we're growing. There's levels that I've never reached in my life. So it's like, whoa, how much we got to invest there? Who do we have to hire? Like, oh, whoa, so those are things that, sometimes it holds me back a little bit, and but then I meet people which they're like, not too long ago I was, with this conversation with now he's becoming a good friend of mine. It's like he sold his company for over $1 billion, and then he talks numbers, and I'm like, come on, Jimmy, like you're gonna, he's talking billions and huge investments, and I'm over here, kind of, and to a certain point, like being a little scared as far as making some of the decisions. So it kind of gives me a little bit more peace of mind where I meet people like that. But those are one of the, what else? One thing that keeps me up at night is like providing the time to my family. So I think that's huge, right? Like every time I jump, I know I'm gonna jump into a different stage in the business. I know it's gonna require tons of work, right? It's gonna require where I have to like study. I have to like just be a lot more disciplined than I was last year. I have to wake up earlier. I have to still stick my my routines, right? Still be connected with the higher up, because that to me it's like the main thing that helps me and opens tons of doors. When there's another challenge and other things coming up, like I have to. That's one of the things. Like I do not want to lose a family during
Yeah.
this next level, right? And the good thing is like I'm learning from other people that still kept their family through all this process, and that the things that definitely keeps me up. You know, so,
How do you do that? Because, and I ask because I know a lot of people that are successful, and a lot of them are divorced.
yeah.
Like most that I know are divorced.
Yeah. How do I do that? I tried, for example, this business trip that we're out here in Miami. I brought my family. You know, I brought my baby. She's 3 months. You know, she's
Congrats.
thank
That's
you.
young. That's very young.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you.
Yeah, man. She's 3 months. So it was a scary thought. We're gonna put her 3 month baby in the plane, you know, and I'm bring my wife, and she's gonna be, you know, a little bit alone in the hotel. But I was like, you know, like I researched. I was like, who has done this before, you know? And I kind of ask questions, and I call, and it's like, oh, this guy did it. Oh, this guy. I was like, oh man, this guy's did it. They're doing
Yeah.
it, you know. So I'm gonna do that. So
Make the effort to do it.
I made the effort to do it, and again, I ask people that are not divorced, right? People that have their family, you know, and I ask them, you know, where are some things that how have you been able to maintain it? And I think I'm grateful because I have an amazing wife too, you know, that she understands that, you know, I want to grow and I have this insane vision, and she helps, but I just try to, you know, keep it as balanced as I can, you know, as far as that goes, and I always put myself in check whenever I'm not, you know, delivering with my family. Like I'm the first guy. I always say this, like I have this general in my head that tells me, hey, you know,
Yeah.
like, Jimmy, what are you doing? And then I was like, okay. I need to get back on track, and I need to invest my time, you know, or I need to wake up an hour earlier, or I need to sleep a little later, you know, to really
Spend time.
spend the time. Yes. So those are the those some of the challenge. That's one of the biggest one that keeps me,
Yeah.
you know, awake. But you know, there's a solution for everything. It's like just, you know, like just work smarter, educate yourself as much as I can, and which is not easy. Coming up from a DF student in high school and college, I had a B in business classes, so
I actually don't find that this school is very useful for if you are a self-taught person. I don't
yeah,
find this school is very, it's good for setting you up with soft skills that are important,
yeah,
but at this point I don't think you could ever correlate your success or your lack of success to anything that you'd ever have been taught in school, because you're so far beyond. Listen, you have a successful business. I think people that have failures are still so far beyond. Just like
yeah,
one business, figure out all the aspects, and you fail, and you still learn more than you would in an actual MBA.
yeah, absolutely,
The growth curve in just doing is it's exponential,
yeah,
and I think that's actually a big issue. You know, you probably talk a lot about why I think school and education is broken, and why I think that it's outdated legacy institution that hasn't kept up with the times. But
yeah.
I mean, I think you're probably more prepared to learn whatever you need to learn now because of what you've accomplished than not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I will say the classes that I took, I was like this close to getting my associates in business. I think I was like 3 credits down, and so, you know, the way that I did it, I just grabbed the best out of those courses and
Yeah.
applied it. You know, and I mean, we never stop growing, right? Like even to the day, like, you know, I go to mentors, I read books back to back, you know, as much as
And
I
you've
can.
been profitable since early on as a business.
Yeah, that I'm grateful to be in the, you know, an industry which, yeah, it has made me, you know, pretty profitable too, you know, from the beginning.
I mean that because not every business is profitable from day one either. Like you can, if you get
Yeah,
investment, you can run unprofitable for a period of time before you start to turn things around. But you've been profitable from early on. I think if I understand your success,
yeah,
um, that's awesome. Okay, that was three. Do you want to do two more, or do you want me to keep going?
yeah. Go ahead, man. I'm having fun.
Okay, good. Okay. Okay. Biggest challenge that you've overcome in your own personal life. What was it? How'd you overcome it?
Whew. Yeah, in my own personal life, one of the biggest challenge recently actually that I have is just being more disciplined, because I got to a level where I was comfortable, and I was a little comfortable. I was like, okay, I think I got it to a level I've never been in my life where my family has. And then when was it during COVID? It was a mixture of spiritual and personal and business. So it was a combination of everything. So once COVID hit, we actually had some news from the doctor. My wife was pregnant. We had it was not a miscarriage. We had something where our baby was growing. She was pregnant, so our first baby was growing, and then they said that he was gonna pass. So the doctor said he was gonna pass. My wife decided to make the bravest decision to keep the baby, and for the baby to grow. So we went through all the 9 months. The baby kept on growing. The doctor was, iffy about Kim being alive. That was challenging. That was tough. It was really intense. And then during that time, COVID hit. So COVID hit at the time. So it affected me personally. It affected my family personally, and then it affected the business as well. All at the same time. So, that happened. Our baby passed. Now he's in heaven. And then I had to deal with that personally, right? So I was like, how am I gonna deal with this with my wife and my family? So I had to really, really look deeper into my spirituality to really come out of this, right? So that was a challenge. So I had to go really deep on that, and then at that point too, my business started dropping too. So there was COVID, so there was chaos in the business. At the same time, so I was like, wow, like I had to figure this out, and I can't let this put me down, because I go back to my family trees. How do you solve situations in my world, right? It was just drinking them out, just there's no going to the psychiatrist and talking about or getting medication. I was like, no, just having a drink with the buddy and just figuring it out, right? And hopefully you make it through, so and there has been
Alcoholism. Yeah.
alcoholism in my family and things like that, right? So and those are some of the ways that in my world it's like, hey man, that's how you solve problems, right? Or go that route, because it is what it is, so I had to say, you know what, like I'm gonna decide not to take that route, and I'm gonna see how I could just deeply connect more into my spirituality and really add more discipline into my life, to get out of this like big problem, right? And and grateful enough, and thank God, like we went through it. It was an extremely hard year, where I had to come back emotionally, and I had to come back business wise too, because we did have a downside of staff as well, so I had to bring people back. I had to train people back. I had to bring myself back, my family back, and we did, and I'm great. And we did, and thank God we've been able. We had a newborn. God bless us with a new baby.
Thank God, congratulations, amazing.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
and you survived, and business is now coming back.
Yes, yes, we survive. We survived. So thank God, we did survive as far as business. We had a 248% growth. So
Shit.
after yeah,
For real?
after that kickback, yeah, it kicked us back for a couple months, but the following year, we had a 248% growth compared to where we were at. And personally, I just feel like I'm a lot more disciplined in my life. I feel a lot more energetic, and I feel like a lot more clear as far as some of the things and my purpose here in life. So
Amazing.
that was, yeah. So
That's
that was,
good.
that was a little long, sorry, but
No, don't apologize. It's a good story. If
Thank
you had to choose one person who's had a major impact on your life, there's obviously been many, but pick
Yeah.
one person, and who's that person? What did they teach you?
One person alive. I would
Uh,
say,
No, I was gonna say like a lot, like in your life, like they could be alive, they could be past, like it could be anyone who's impacted you.
I would say my mom. She has been a huge part of my life, because she has always guided me with good principles in life, right? My spirituality, she's always on me, like, make sure you have that connection. And then business too. She always pushed me and made me believe that I was able to do great things, and I think I'm really grateful with her. And I seen her, starting up her own small business. She cleans houses. Like I clean houses with her for a bit too. So I seen her like go through that, and I seen her like how she wanted me to push. She wanted to show me an example how I'll be able to make it, that it was possible. So she has been a huge influence in my life to the day. Thank God. And I wouldn't been able to be where I'm at if I wasn't because of for her.
Amazing. Pick one book, podcast, Audible, a book you've read. What was that? How did it impact your life? What did it teach you?
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So a book, I will say the first one, the book, and I always say one of the most famous book is the Bible. There's all the facts are in there, everything that they're
You're very
mentioned.
spiritual. You are spiritual.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. So I think a lot of the self help books, a lot of information comes from there. But I think a big book that really kind of blew up my mind a little bit. It has, I will say, Grant Cardone 10x. That's one that helped
Sales or business?
um, sales. But as far as business goes, and more of the CEO book, it is The Ride of a Lifetime, and this is from the CEO of Walt Disney. It's
Hmm.
a super amazing book, man. I love it. I love
What's
it.
it? What is it? The Ride of a Lifetime?
The Ride of a Lifetime.
Never heard of that book.
Yeah,
That's the one that I have to get now. That's one
yeah,
I've
man.
never heard of that.
Yeah, I love that book, and it talks about his background, his story from him being in business, and having to travel all over the world, and the perspective that these different countries gave him, and the understanding of people, and how he was able to grow and get to a position where he was a CEO of one of the biggest brand in the world, right? And then him talking about how he solved some of the problems. Like for example, he talked about the first thing he talks about is where he had to publicly talk about an alligator eating, actually here in Florida, eating a little kid. So that happened in a resort here in Florida.
At
So
one of the Disney resorts.
one of the Disney resort. So I guess this kid was running around, and an alligator came by, and he just ate the kid.
Jesus.
So it was intense, and how he starts off, and
Jeez.
and it's like that's the
What
problem.
what a first week. My God. It's not
Yeah,
easy. It's I mean it's a very privileged position to be in, to be a
yeah,
CEO of Disney, but I mean that's I'm sure he has a story.
yeah,
He's a very
yeah.
smart guy.
It is crazy. So I love that book just by listening to his. I mean, just reading his story and everything. I was like, wow. Like, and I'm over here complaining about a little dumb stuff, and this guy had to.
It's funny. It's actually funny how you always like I think it's a great personality trait you have. You always center yourself based on what other you realize like the stuff that I'm dealing with right now really isn't that big a deal
Yeah,
compared to what this person compared to not only what my family went through coming over from Mexico.
yeah,
That was a difficult life, and now I'm privileged I have the life that I live right now. But also as a CEO, you're like I'm trying to deal with these small issues, and then this is the CEO of one of the largest companies in the world that has to deal with things at such an extreme level that it's also like my current situation is difficult, but I think that that lens in which you look at everyone else's life, it sort of centers you and it helps you sort of I don't know, it just helps you make smarter decisions, helps you with your composure, helps you with your thought process because it makes you less stressed because you realize well people have figured out much more serious things and they've also come from much less privileged places.
yeah.
But you've mentioned that twice now, and I actually think it's a really great. No, I think it's a great. I
Thank
think
you.
it's a great trait. I think it's something that's actually allowed you to always center yourself and to always make smart decisions and to almost like remove the stress and the emotion out of decisions because you realize that every problem that you're facing, it's a problem, but it's not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I think that's
You
I
mentioned it twice in an hour.
yeah,
Like it's an important thing, and I think that's something that you should do a lot because
yeah,
regardless of what problem it is you're facing right now, realistically, it's not going to be a problem in most likely even a month or 6 months or a year from now.
yeah,
Sometimes they are, but I can't remember the quote. It's like never stress about problems that aren't going to be around in 10 years.
yeah. No, that is true. Honestly, I don't know where I get that from, but I think just trying to always be grateful for what I have, right? Because
Yeah.
like you said, like my the background that I come from, my family, I shouldn't be where I'm at right now. So at the end of the day, all this is
Everyone's
fun.
supposed to be exactly where they are, man. Everyone's supposed to be exactly where they are. There's yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay, if you could tell your 20-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
Oh man, like my 20-year-old.
Okay, what
That
were you doing?
guy's
Were you at 20? Were you still in the call center,
at
or
20.
were you door to door?
Yeah, I was in the call center. He was a fun guy, man. Like that's how
I have no doubt. I have no doubt.
Oh my God, what do I tell him? I will tell him to just I mean I love my 20s, man. Like I think it was a great time in my life. What would I tell him? That's a really good question. I'll just say, just you're gonna be great, man. Just keep on going, do your thing, keep on having fun, and and eventually you'll get to the other stuff. But I really enjoy my 20s. I don't know what I would tell my 20 years old self.
You just said it. Just keep on going.
Just keep on going. Yeah.
Good. All right. Last question. What does success mean to you?
Success to me means being serving a lot of people. I think that is what success is. Like I I think one of the greatest feelings that I get is from serving. From just being around people and just being able to connect with people and and just learning itself, man. I think overall success to me is just just serving, being a professional, what I do, get to the highest levels possible, as far as, whatever is it that you're doing, right? And just having fun. I think that's the biggest success. Obviously, yeah, like I'm not gonna lie, like making big financials, financial numbers. It's yeah, I mean, yeah, that's
You're
an
competitive. You're in business. It's
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
yeah, you have to, right? Like it's life. Like think cost things like you want to be able to live a more comfortable life. So that is part of the success. But the biggest thing is serving, just serving at the best, at the best that you can, and just having fun, man. Like just having a good time, being genuine, and just being able to serve, many lives, and just let's say if you will die, who knows, within the next 24 hours, like you'll feel at peace that you could say, man, what else would I mean, I did everything that I could. Like I have no regrets. I feel like every minute I had, every time, every hour, I spend it the best that I can with the best attitude. And I think that to me, that's the best success you could ever have. So.